Well, why are you here? Fifth grade parents, you might say, well, why am I here? Well, hopefully you're getting excited about your student being involved in ministry, and I want to be able to speak to you as well. But we're all in the same place together, and that's this awkward thing of parenting teenagers. It's awkward for your teenager, and it's awkward for you at best. And I know for most of you, even if this is like the third teenager you have, it's still like you're still figuring it out. And every time you come up with something, it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to deal with this. And so really we're a community of people, and I want to try to build that sense of community. So that's why we're here. We're here to be a community together that seeks to see more and more students and adults love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. That's why I'm here. And so my role in that is to help equip and enable us to do that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ministry, and we're going to keep going. About me. Some of you guys don't know who I am. Well, you know me, my face a little bit, but not much about me. I know I look like your teenager, and I'm okay with that. I laughed a little yesterday and got over it. No, but seriously, I've been married for almost 10 years. I have a 3-year-old son. I've been in ministry since 2002. The last church I worked at, I was there for 7 years, and God really worked through that ministry in mighty ways. It was a third of the size of this church, and God really worked through the students and the parents and the church as a whole to really grow that ministry exponentially. God really did amazing work there. I left Montoursville to have an opportunity for my family to, be closer to their family as well. So my aunt and uncle, who raised me, they live about 2.5 hours south of here in Baltimore. My in-laws, they live about an hour west of here in Kleinfeltersville, a little town that's about this big, and it's known for the largest, I think it's the most letters in a Pennsylvania city. And so Allentown was a great opportunity for us, where we felt God was calling us in this stage of our life to really just kind of settle down and continue growing our family and continue doing ministry and life together. Like I said, I mentioned my aunt and uncle. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. My mom died when I was 9 years old. She committed suicide. She had me when she was 19. My parents were divorced 3 months old, when I was 3 months old. My mom and I moved around a bunch until she died when I was 9, and then I moved in with my aunt and uncle. I lived with them until I was 19, and then I went to Philadelphia Biblical University. Was there for 2.5 years and pretty much got my associate's degree in youth ministry, and then I went to get some hands-on experience. I worked for Campus Crusade for Christ. Did that for a couple years. I volunteered at an inner city church, and then eventually I cut my teeth on a larger youth ministry job in early 2000s as I was at Garnet Valley Presbyterian Church outside of Philadelphia, in southern Philadelphia. I was there for roughly a year, and then they ran out of money and said, "Hey Phil, we can't pay you anymore." I said, "That's okay, I'll work for free, and my wife can support us." But then we found out the wonderful school that my wife and I both went to forgot to submit for her teacher certification. And so all of a sudden, she's in the second round of 3 interviews with the Philadelphia School District, and we find out she's not going to have a job in the fall. I'm not guaranteed a job in the fall. So we said, "All right, God, what do you have now?" And then we talked about going internationally. And so ended up living in Taiwan for a year. I volunteered at a church and taught English there. My wife also worked at international school there and taught first graders, completely outside of her comfort zone. And it was really a stretching experience. At one point, we had more time outside of the country as a married couple than we had in America as a married couple, because we had only been married for about 6 months at that time. I wanted to continue my degree, and I was doing that while I lived in Taiwan, but the challenge was I couldn't do that and then go out of my house and do something. I'd go out of my house and do something, and no one spoke English. And so it was really challenging for me to really kind of be able to be in an environment where I could finish my schooling and also function. And so eventually, that combined with the fact that my wife really loves family, we're like, let's go back to the States. Went back to the States, figured it was easier for me to find a job, or harder for me to find a job, so I looked for a job specifically, just because finding a church that fits you rather than a school that fits you is a little bit more challenging. And so I found a job. It was actually a couple different jobs, but chose Montoursville, Pennsylvania, And then it took 2 years for my wife to find a job, but that's a completely separate story. But I have a heart for youth ministry, and I have a heart for seeing Jesus Christ known as Lord and Savior in our students' lives. And I have a heart to see that happen and function through the local church, as lovely and messed up as it is, because we're broken people filled with, in a broken building, trying to figure out how to do life together. I love that, though, the fact that we can do this thing called life. And I hope and pray that we bring along as many students and people as we can to help more and more people love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. And that's my goal. My goal is really to make him known and to help other people understand what role God and faith play in their lives. That's a little bit about me. The story's a little bit more complex than that. Excuse me. And so, but I'm going to continue on just because I don't want to tell my story all night long. We're going to go a little bit about us, and we're going to share a little bit about us. And this is kind of the bulk of a little bit about our night. But one of the things that I really need from our parents, I need our parents to understand why we do what we do. What is the purpose behind what we do? And so very much I want to explain it to you guys so that you hear from me, you have an opportunity to interact with it a little bit so that you can understand that when we say, hey, this is what this night is for, when this night we say what this night is for, you understand why we're doing what we're doing. You can have an opportunity to understand the greater meaning behind what we're doing. And so I want to walk through a little bit about our ministry. Any questions about my story? It's kind of awkward if you want to ask me a question about my story. I came to Christ when I was in high school and in youth ministry. Sorry, shut this door. And so youth ministry has always been a huge part of my life. And I came to Christ as a freshman in high school. And so youth ministry has always been huge to me. But I want to share a little bit about us. And I want to share a little bit about who we are. And a lot of this has come from me, but I've adopted and adapted a lot of this just from who we are as a church. First, a couple side notes that aren't up on your notes. Our ministry will always be aligned with the church. I never want our youth ministry to be a separate little dominion or separate organization or entity of its own. It's not healthy when we're out on an island doing our own thing. Because when students graduate from this thing called youth ministry and they can't find that experience anywhere else, when they graduate high school, they'll leave the church, and I can almost guarantee it. They find a faith in a way that just seems disauthentic and just not real and not what they're used to with all the hype and the lights and all the things we can add into it, and they've never actually learned what it meant to be a part of the entire body of Christ, then I'm pretty sure that they'll leave the church come their senior year. And so, very much so, I want to align us as a ministry directly under the church. Now, we might communicate a little bit differently, we might say things slightly different, we might do things slightly different, but I want to always make sure that we are aligned directly under the church. Second thing is, our ministry is supposed to be relational first and use programs and events to facilitate those relationships. We're always supposed to be relational. The fact is that we do programs, we do Wednesday night, we do Friday night, we do Sunday morning to facilitate relationships. The first and most important relationship is the relationship with Christ. The second relationship that we can help facilitate is a healthy relationship between them and another Christ-loving adult. And a third healthy relationship that we can help them facilitate is between them and, well, their peers. And so, very much so, our ministry will always be designed with the idea of relationship in mind. Relationships have to be first. Programs are a tool to enable and help us do relationships. So let me go over really why we exist. And Bethany Student Ministry exists to help students to love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. And we do that by helping them connect, grow, serve, and go. We do this by gathering in large groups and small groups. Now, you might say, what is Connect, Grow, Serve, and Go? I've not heard this before, and where did this come from? Well, it came from me, and it came from, yes, my previous ministry, but it actually came from a couple different organizations. One is Purpose-Driven Life, and Purpose-Driven Church, and Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry, and the fact is that there's 5 things to who we are. That is, we're supposed to be missional, we're supposed to be doing ministry, we're supposed to be doing evangelism and discipleship. And so very much these 5 things help us be who we are as Christians and as disciples. I believe truly that a healthy disciple who loves Jesus Christ and is equipped in seeing him work in and through his life is connecting with God in worship. They're growing in their faith in a small group. They're serving inside the church and outside the church, and they're going out into an unbelieving world sharing their faith. And so these words are new. I added these words. But I add clarity to the fact that we are still called to love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. I just say connect, grow, serve, and go because it gives us some tangibles behind the non-tangibles. And so connect, grow, serve, and go is new. Your students haven't heard very much of connect, grow, serve, go yet because I've been slowly trying to introduce the language, slowly introduce the idea, and I also wanted to give it to you guys first as an idea. I've been talking about it with my leaders. So this is the primary reason we exist. This is why we exist. So when you say, hey, Phil, I want to do this, and we are a permission-giving church, if there's something that you can do and we can gather students and it can be effective and it's a good use of our resources and being a good steward with what God has given us, I might say, that's a good idea, but how does it line up with this? How does it line us up with us loving, obeying, and proclaiming Jesus Christ? Does it fall under us connecting, growing, serving, or going in our faith? And if it doesn't line up with that, is it really furthering our mission and what we do and who we are? And so, very much so, this is something I'm always going to point to. And this isn't something I made up. This is just something that is who we are. Love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. That's who we are as a church. Now, very much so, this is important. I need you guys to understand the defined purposes behind each program. Reason this is because there's homework later on. I'm actually not kidding. But there's homework later on, and understanding these defined purposes for each one of our... Sorry, it's been a long day, like I said. But each one of our core programs, understanding the defined purposes behind it will help us to further, meet our goals and meet our missions and why we exist. And so the number one reason for Clyde is to provide a place for students to connect in a small group and grow in their faith. Now, you might say, hey, Phil, but you might do some fun or goofing off. Yes, because students communicate through fun. You might say, hey, Phil, you did something this way, or that way. Well, let's see how it fits into what we're doing and our goal and our method and our model collide. In small groups, we want them growing in their faith. Cafe, a fun environment for students to bring their friends. Simple enough. That's why it exists. Fusion, a classroom environment where students grow in their faith. Also, combined with Fusion, you can combine confirmation as well. So this is a classroom environment. It's discipleship-based. It's very much systematic. In Fusion, they're actually going through the entire Bible. They're going through Genesis through Revelations. Right now, they're in like the minor and major prophets. And so we're looking at a large snapshot over 72 weeks of the entire Bible. And so that's pretty cool, a good opportunity for your students. So this is a little bit about who we are as I saw it when I came in. This is about who we are as I saw it when I came in. Yes, I added connect, grow, serve, and go, but I felt like that was just clarity. But this is really who I saw the ministry to exist as when I came in. Any questions about the ministry, kind of the structure, the rough structure that I just laid out there? Questions, thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
Are all three of those 6th to 12th grade?
Currently, yes. And we'll talk about that in the next section. Currently, all these are 6th through 12th grade. We have been doing some specific events that are just for high school or just for middle school, but we'll be talking about that in a minute anyway. Questions, thoughts, comments? I know I speak quickly. I apologize. But if you have any questions, please write them down, and I'll consciously try to slow down here. All right, let's keep going. Your kids, our future. We need to do something new together. We need to do something new together. I was in a meeting with a guy, and he was talking about starting in a new ministry, and this was like early 2000s. And I was talking with him, and he said, hey, Phil, whenever you go somewhere, you need to get your own kindling. You need to start a new fire. You need to get something fresh, because we know that old firewood doesn't really burn well. Old ancient fruit of taking the apple down and saying, this is something that we grew long ago, it just ends up rotting if you just hold it and it's disconnected from the tree. And so we need, as a group, to do something new. We need to do something new together. And I love old, and I love mixing old, and I understand that, but I know that in my heart of hearts that as a ministry, we need to do something new to be more effective in how we reach our students. And so that's why this is here. Given my experience in ministry, this is a structure, not the way we do ministry. So this is a structure. This is what we build a house around. This is how we take ministry and we shape and form it. The form might change. It might wear a different hat today and a different shirt tomorrow, but this is something to hang our hats on. This is something to put our shirts over so that we can do ministry and reach more and more students to help them better love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. This is structure. I've seen this structure work. I've done this structure for 7 years. I've seen this structure work in and out, and I know its challenges, its ups and downs. It's what I've experienced. I know it might be new to you, and I don't necessarily say this is the way it has to be, but I've also experienced this. I've seen the benefits of this type of structure. Like I said, though, the form might change. It might look differently, taste differently, or smell differently, but the basic structure is there. Logistics are not worked out for this. We don't necessarily have enough leaders. Just putting that flat out there. We don't. For this structure to exist, previous ministry, I had 23 leaders, and that was not enough, because you never have enough leaders. And we were reaching about 85 kids a week, about 100 kids a month. And that was 85 into 2 program nights, and that was with 23 leaders. You might say, hey, well, how does that work? The math doesn't compute. That's because as we have groups right now, they're supposed to each have 2 adults in them. And so if we have 11 small groups, we need 24 people to exist, or 22 people just to merely exist. And so that's not even the extra events and things like that. And that's talking about a small group-based ministry. And so logistics for this is not worked out yet. I'm working that out. I'm trying to work on that. I've been working non-stop to get that done, at least so we could be positioned for this. This is something I want for you. This is something I want from you as well, but this is something I want for you and your families. I don't necessarily think this is a magic bullet. I don't necessarily think this is going to fix all our problems, but I know this is going to address a lot of them. Now, what I mean by that is, as you can see, a 5th through 7th grade ministry, as we currently exist, we cannot handle more than 55, 65, 70 kids, if that. And so by default alone, by taking the ministry and putting it in 2 different places, we have the opportunity to have more capacity of people just by sheer volume. And so we could handle more students by splitting the ministry up this way. I see 55 to 75 students in a weekly meeting, such as what you're experiencing right now with the students back there and upstairs. I see 55 to 75 5th through 7th graders in this building. I see them participating in weekly discipleship opportunities, different small groups throughout the community. I see them, if they don't connect on a Wednesday night or whenever that program night is, I see them connecting on a Sunday night with small group leaders who definitely care and love on them and want to see them draw closer to Jesus Christ and help them to figure out what it means to love, obey, and proclaim Him. I see monthly outreach events that are attracting 100 students or more. Because if we have that top part there, we can get that last part there. We can see the Lehigh Valley changed for Jesus Christ so that your student and their friends look radically different than what the world looks like. I see us going on annual mission trips, retreats, times away where our students are discipled, where they learn what it means to step outside of their comfort zone, where they learn what it means to maybe listen to an adult who actually knows what they're saying, so when they come home, they might not do the dishes right away, but they understand some importance of hard work. And so I see this ministry, and I look at this, and I see this is a perfect opportunity. This is a perfect opportunity. A couple strategy things. First of all, 5th grade is strategic. 5th grade is very, very strategic, and it's strategic for this reason. If I get them in 5th grade, I'm more likely to keep them. If I get them in 5th grade, I'm more likely to keep them through the tumultuous middle school years, and we all know they're tumultuous. And so if I get them in 5th grade, I'm more likely to keep them until they're seniors. I've seen it work. Also, if I get them in 5th grade, that's one last transition for them to miss, make, or have when they step into middle school 6th grade year. They automatically know somebody because they've been hanging out with them at youth group. And it might be awkward at first, and it always is, that 1st grade or 5th grade class that I get. They're always like this, and they're always little 4th graders. But by the time they get done that 5th grade year, they're starting to look like middle schoolers. And so it's almost as if the 5th grade year doesn't exist, because the first half, they're 4th graders. They are. They're scared of you a little bit. You're like, sit down, pay attention, answer the question. They're like, yes. The middle school boys, or girls, and they're like, why are we listening to you? And it's just, we know how it is. But 5th graders, if we get them, we've got them. And so I've seen this 5th grader, and I've seen the dynamic that happens. By the second half of that year, they're hooked, and then it's all of a sudden, they're going into middle school, and they have one last transition to make. I know that every time a ministry has to make a transition from children's to youth, or if the youth has multiple transitions between it, you lose people. You might say, hey, Phil, while you're building in a chance to lose people, I am, but I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to take that risk. Also, if we take away the risk of, a new school, a new ministry, we mitigate that risk by allowing our 5th graders to join the ministry. Also, I know that 5th graders are more like 7th graders than 6th graders are like 12th graders. Let me say it again. 5th graders are more like 7th graders than our 6th graders are like 12th graders, and currently we're 6th through 12th. Even 7th through 12th is a bit tough. And so this is also strategic, knowing that our 5th graders would do better in this style of ministry. Let's keep going, though. 8th grade is very, very, very strategic. Every single ministry, every single year, I've seen our 8th graders, it dips down like this. It's the most trying time that I've ever experienced as far as looking at our ministry models and saying, all right, 8th graders are hard. 8th grade year, they start mentally, they start developing the ability to ask the questions why. They start developing the ability to understand the non-tangibles and all of a sudden they're not cool enough, and parents, you're not cool enough, and you found that out. So 8th grade year is very strategic, because 8th grade year, if we can show them that they can be part of the high school ministry and step into the doors and be welcomed, then we're more likely to, once again, keep them around. And so 8th grade year is very strategic, because that's often the dip that I've seen the lowest. And if we don't keep them 8th grade year, we won't get them back until junior year, if we get them back at all. And by the time you get them back junior year, you lose them senior year. I've never really found a ministry that has ever done a good job at keeping seniors. I've been working on it for years, and it's difficult. Can't be done, but it's difficult. You do it a little differently. Still, nonetheless, our 8th graders, we got to work on keeping them, because if we don't, it's going to be harder to get them later in their high school career. And so 8th grade is very strategic. Also, an 8th grader is more like a senior. Not necessarily, not in theory, but an 8th grader developmentally is more like a senior. As far as brain and cognitive and brain science, 8th grade developmentally is when they start developing the ability to think more like a high schooler and less like a middle schooler. And so we are helping enable that. But nonetheless, don't worry, it's not like they're in a small group with just 8th through 12th grade guys. That doesn't necessarily happen. So this is just a rough structure. Take a second while I drink this water and think of your question, and then I'll let questions exist for this one, because it's a lot. All right, questions. Questions about this. Hello. Questions about this ministry model. Now, this isn't the direction we have to go in. This is just a proposed direction. I've talked to my leaders about it a little bit. I've actually talked about it since I've gotten here. I've also talked about it. Okay, I will. Yeah, one second. I've also talked about it with the leadership of the church when I was hired here. I talked to Pastor Jim about this model, and he likes it. He personally thinks it needs to be 5th and 6th grade only, but I'm trying to be a little bit more strategic than that. Question, ma'am.
Yes, I was wondering, are the boys and girls together, or some activities they're separated?
Small groups are always separated throughout everything I do. What I'm looking to do is possibly on Fusion mornings, and I didn't necessarily talk about that in this model, but on Fusion, it would possibly be mixed gender. We haven't gone there yet, but on Fusion, the problem with doing that in Fusion is I need both genders to teach them. and that's a little challenging at times. And so honestly, yes, on a Wednesday night or a whatever their program night is, yes, it would be. Let me also reemphasize that this 55 to 75, that's what the youth ministry is about. So it's whatever the name is, whatever the name is. The No Name group meets on Wednesday nights. It's an 8th through 12th grade ministry. It's 55 to 75 kids growing in their faith in small groups with one, preferably 2 leaders at minimum. And they're doing life together. They're growing in their faith. They're asking these challenging questions, responding to them. And this is the core that our ministry revolves around. This is what enables us to do a cafe-style event. This is what enables us to send 20, 30 people on a mission trip. This is what enables us to do the things we do. And so when you look at this model, we really need to be careful not to identify it as this is falling on one central mindset here and then growing from there.
Currently, is Fusion only happening at 9:15?
Yes, it happens at 11, but it's really going to hit or miss our attendance. And so there's consistency issue there as far as the attendance. And so some weeks it's 11 o'clock and there's no one there. And so then we don't have it. So yes, it is only at, and also that has critical mass at this point. So there's about 40 to 50 students involved in Fusion on Sunday morning right now.
The numbers, the 55 to 75, have you looked at who's currently attending, like, or who even we have as 5th graders and 6th graders and 7th graders? Is that where that number came from? Or?
That number is based off of, yes it is, based off of that. And that, we would grow towards that. In the middle school ministry, we'd be able to hit that rather, but this is actually a 5-year, this is really looking at a 5-year plan of getting to that. But in the middle school ministry, we could hit that within a year or two. The high school ministry would take longer. When I say high school, I mean 8th through 12th, by the way. And so it's possible. We do not have 55 to 75 8th graders in our 8th through 12th graders in our church. I've looked at every service. I've counted at every service. It physically doesn't exist. Now, do we have 30-ish? Yes. Do we have 30-ish 5th through 7th graders? Yes, definitely. And so, actually no, easily we have 40 5th through 7th graders. And so, yes, these numbers are completely doable from just existing. But no matter what, it would all start out low and we'd have to grow from there. We need to start something new. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? I know it's a bunch to digest. One of the things I'm trying to do is that to gear up towards this model, though, I need your help. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But really, this requires, well, if you take my numbers and you say 10 students in a small group, but it rarely works out that way, 10 students in a small group and two adults in each small group, you have a minimum of at least 10 adults in each group. And I don't have that right now. I have about 6 or 8 just in what we're doing right here, and it's not for lack of trying, to be honest with you. Now, one of the things with this is to keep in mind is that we can do more with less, but it's never beneficial. It won't help the ministry. My goal, my primary goal, and one of my goals in ministry is to make ministry sustainable. So that it's not just reaching your kids, but it's reaching your kids' kids. And really that's one of my goals, is to make it sustainable, that we're not a flash in the pan and all of a sudden things are really just 6 cylinders and then it just stops for whatever reason. And so that's my goal. So yes, this model, if you take the groups out and you divide the groups, it would be 11 small groups, 11 or 12 small groups, so I would need a minimum of 24 adults to get this working, and I currently don't have that. Questions, thoughts? Ooh, nice. Yes. Great.
I don't know if this was asked. I stepped out for a minute, so I apologize if it was asked already. But I was wondering, time frame of when you were thinking about trying to do this?
I would like to do it sooner than later. My goal is September of this school year. However, I'd be willing to do it next month if I had parents who step up and said, let's do it. Let's see the Lehigh Valley changed for the cause of Christ to help more and more students love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. I'm prepped to do this. I just need our church to respond. I am ready and willing to do this. Now, there are logistical challenges such as building use, But I'll hop through those hoops. Financial hoops, I'll hop through those hoops. That's the least of my problems. I wanna get this thing up and going as soon as we can.
I apologize, I came in a few minutes late.
That's fine.
Would you be doing clearances and safe sanctuary? I'm coming from a different church, this is, we're joining this new church.
I'm good with
So,
the safe
safe
sanctuaries. I'm huge on that.
Okay,
I taught it in my last church, and yes, everything has to be clearance. Everyone needs the FBI background check. If they haven't been in Pennsylvania for 10 years, they need the patch, which is Pennsylvania criminal history, and they also need the child line clearance. 2 of those are done online, 1 of them is done in person. In addition to that, the Safe Sanctuaries training. We catch that one up occasionally, but I require the first 2 to at least start, and then they have like a 30-day grace period. So definitely, yes.
Just a comment, Faith Church already does this model, so it's definitely sustainable as far as the age groups you can go into. I'll say that. You mentioned not having trouble retaining 12th graders. It seems to be a policy in this church that teenagers can't lead Bible studies. And I know in some other churches, sometimes the older teens will lead Bible studies through junior high.
It's not. If I can interrupt, it's not a policy.
Okay, because that. And
Completely not true.
Before you came,
It was a misunderstanding. It was a misunderstanding. What happened is via Safe Sanctuaries, your daughter can't be responsible for a group of middle school girls.
Right.
She can't be the sole person. She can teach it. I would love for her to teach it. But she can't be the one responsible. And so we really need to define that. And so definitely no, we can do that. And I want students leading. I want them leading in a supervised, safe environment where we can trust and understand what's being said and hold people accountable. But at the same time, no, that's not true. I'm sorry.
But I think that would probably be a good way to work on retaining our 12th graders is to actively pursue that of partnering them with an adult to help with the middle school
Sure.
small group, because then they feel needed and there's more of a-
Definitely, and that's something I've done. Typically, I've done 10th grader and above can help in the middle school ministry, and then I give them different roles. If it is leading small groups, it also is doing tech and sound and all that stuff. It's doing social media. Yes, I'm familiar with that, and I've done that in my past. There's also other ways that I've done. I reached out to our seniors. Part of that is second half of senior year, basically doing a college, if they're doing college, or doing a world prep where they just basically kind of do some different Bible study material to kind of prep them for graduating. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yes?
So, now, because what you had said about 5th graders, if they're not in the program, you kind of lose them. I'm a parent of a 5th grader, and I feel like I'm a little worried because if they're not already, I mean, he's going to Sunday school, but he's not really in this type of structure yet. So now I'm a little concerned. Now, what would you do with like the current 5th graders, because they're really going to be new to this whole thing, even though you'll have 5th graders coming in that are new, the current 5th graders who will be 6th graders will also be new.
Correct. And so what we would do is we'd help them own the group. Really, they would help shape the group and understand, and they would have more ownership and more, I guess would say would be a good, more buy-in or vote. And so they really would be presented with this idea in a similar fashion, but let's create this together. And so we are creating a new group, and we need your help. The same thing with the other grades as they transition in, is to really help them own this. And I understand that completely. We don't want our kids to feel like they're losing. We don't want our students who currently attend to feel like they're losing. We don't. I do know that this is a shock to the system a little bit, but at the same time, I really feel like this is what will move our ministry forward. I really do. If I didn't, I would rather just leave it status quo. But I'm not happy with status quo because I want to see the Lehigh Valley changed. And I think that through your help and God working through you, this is a good direction. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Somebody? Go ahead.
So what does the 8 through 12 look like? What would that look like in splitting them apart in what we do now when they're together? Do you know what I mean?
So the ministry basically there'd be 2 primary meeting nights. or it would be one meeting night on in two different locations. These two primary meeting nights would consist of the primary meeting, which would be a small group-based model where we learn and we play and we pray together. Let me refresh and say that it's essential for us to remain an atmosphere of fun in our youth ministry. If we don't, we will lose our students because they communicate in fun and goofiness and silliness. So we can't be serious all the time. I'm not, actually. I know it looks like I am, but I'm not. And so we can't be serious all the time. So on a Wednesday night, per se, 8th through 12th grade ministry, we're going to be goofing off, and we're going to be having fun, and we're going to allow them to just hang out and be, while at the same time, we're going to be doing something serious, and we're going to have that opportunity for them to grow in their small group. And so I've really seen this work out as far as you do a little bit of everything on one night, but you provide those separate opportunities. So on a Friday night, we're going to go to a wing place, so all you can eat wings, and we got a room for 50 people, and we're going to have a wing eating contest for 8th through 12th grade. So then every ministry each ministry has its own special events. Each ministry has its own unique environments that we are creating. Now, one of my parents was a little bit concerned. They're like, well, what about the crossover ministry? And we like that atmosphere, like, you know, like you said, Jen, like, you know, oh, we like our seniors being able to teach our junior hires and that kind of mentorship. We provide that atmosphere as well. And we provide that through, student leadership primarily, but through also other opportunities and events. So a little bit of both and. So if you're thinking like cafe, like how would cafe currently look, well, it could look like it currently does. It would just be 8th through 12th primarily. But I do have to say, this wouldn't provide for a weekly opportunity like that. Because this model does not focus solely on that venue or that plan and way to draw students in. We use our current core group of students to invite and to bring students in to those crucial events, those once-a-month high-impact events that are doing a really good job at bringing students in. And so that is, as far as cafe, open gym could still exist. The once-a-month off-the-campus events could still exist. The in-between weeks might not exist, but they wouldn't necessarily need to because we still would be drawing students in and creating that environment for them to bring their friends. We'd still be meeting our goal. Questions, thoughts, comments? I didn't need to move on. Whoa, I'm really behind. All right, let's keep going. How to support us. History first. I know that there's a lack of trust in this student ministry. I'd be silly to not acknowledge that. The fact that you've gone through 5 youth pastors, and I'm lucky number 5 or 4 or some semblance thereof, the history of youth pastors and ministry and how you felt supported or involved, I know that it's been messy at best and possibly destructive or just challenging at worst. And so I want to acknowledge that. Some of our 5th grade parents are like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Good, stay that way. But seriously though, I know that there's a history here and I need to acknowledge that. I can't not acknowledge it. But it's behind us. Let's move forward. Let's grow together so that more and more students can know and love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. And so I understand that there's been a lack of trust. I understand that there's been a lack of support. Lack of support from the parents and lack of support for the parents. I know that. People have told me this. Leadership has told me this. Head leadership of the church, parents have told me this. Students have told me this. That there's some disconnect and some there's just some discomfort at times in regards to the youth ministry. And I'm not necessarily going to fix that overnight. I know that trust is built over time. And I know necessarily I can't demand trust or respect. But at the same time, we really need to work on leaving that in the past and looking forward to our future, because if we do and can look forward to the future of the student ministry, then we have the ability to impact more students. We have the ability to not only impact your student, but the students your students hang out with. And so very much I understand that there is history. My experience is very much so that if our student ministry does not support and enable and work through our parent, then it won't be healthy. And so I put on Facebook today, if you follow me, or yesterday or sometime last week, I think, that a healthy youth ministry revolves around a healthy church with a supportive and involved parent base. That's what requires a healthy youth ministry. It requires our parents to be involved. You might say, hey, Phil, I can't give a Wednesday night. I'm already serving on 4 other things. I don't necessarily need that. That's not necessarily all the support I'm looking for. But we want you to pray. We want you to give when you can. Give of your time when you can. Sure, that part of it hopefully will come. But we're looking for support, and we're looking for ideas. We're looking for encouragement. We want to talk positively about it. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But I know that a healthy youth ministry requires our parents. It does. I've been in ministry long enough to see that a parent who fully supports a youth ministry and the church, their students are more likely to stay involved. Yes, they'll struggle, and yes, they'll have issues in life. We all do. But they're more likely to stay involved, not just for those years, but even after they graduate. For the parent who's only partially invested or partially involved or partially supportive, their kids are also only partially invested, partially involved, or partially supportive. I've seen that time and time again. And I'm not saying you need to agree or like everything that I do or we do as a youth ministry, but I know that without our parents, without you guys, without your support, this is nothing. And so I don't want to waste our time. I don't want to waste the church's time. So I want to figure out what we can do as a group collectively to see more and more students love and obey and proclaim Jesus Christ. Let's go to the how. First thing I need from you guys, and this is really kind of an agreement. Thank you for entering into it. I appreciate it. But really, this is really an agreement. And I have a pretty cool video, but I don't have time to show it. And I'll put it on Facebook if you want, part of the parent group. But this is an agreement where I need your help with it. If you have an issue or question, please come see me about any of this. I need you to be a cheerleader for our ministry. That can be one of the best outreach tools out there. Your commitment to seeking your students involved in our ministry is also key. And so you guys know other parents. You guys know other students. You guys are the ones talking it up in the community or talking it down in the community. And like I said, you might not say, hey, you know what, Philip, that idea was awful. I've done some really dumb things in ministry. I still do lots of dumb things in ministry. And I've had some ideas that weren't necessarily the greatest. And you don't necessarily have to support those. But in general, all in all, we would appreciate that if you can be a cheerleader for our ministry, it will help make our ministry better. I can guarantee that. If you have a problem, concern, question, or issue with anything we do, come to us first. Please don't start going to other parents or other leaders. If we don't know, we can't help. I've been saying this for the past couple months to our students because I keep getting the whisper down the lane of, Philip, we're upset about this. Then I say, all right, group, all right, individuals, what do you want to address? What do you want to deal with? Talk to me. And I hear nothing. But I still hear whisper down the lane, and I'm like, all right, you don't want to talk to me? I understand. Maybe you don't like me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. Talk to one of our other leaders. Still nothing. So we want to make sure you have an opportunity, and we put it out there that we expect, and we want you, if you have an issue or something, come to us directly so that we can change and we can make our community better so that more and more students love, obey, and proclaim Jesus Christ. We want to help start spiritual conversations at home, so don't be afraid to ask what went on in one of our gatherings in small groups. So, if you're part of Fusion, or if you're part of the Facebook group, and I would encourage you to join that, if you're part of the Facebook group, every Tuesday I put a recap on Sunday that's got basically a whole letter to parents saying, here, this is what we talked about. Talk about this stuff at the dinner table. I want to equip and enable you to reach your students. That's one of my primary roles, is to equip and enable the church to reach students. Actually, I think that's my only role. And so the thing is that I want to help you reach your students because it is your primary job to do that, not mine. It's your primary job to reach your students, and so I want to help you do that. And so I have tools. I have tons of things. This is a short intro packet. This is mental health. This is about mental health. Okay, that's not as much discipleship, but that's a good packet. This is a discussion starter for when the game stands tall. Something you could just do with your kids after watching the movie. This is 52 devotionals. There's tons of resources that I have. 30 days of prayer, praying for your youth. Each day you can pray for your students, something specific for them needed in a student's life. And so my role is to help help you, encourage you, challenge you to raise your students up. All right? I don't know better. I don't have a teenager. But I have worked with them long enough to have a few things that I might be able to suggest. And so I want to help you, walk alongside you. Let's keep going. Know the purpose of each event. Help us communicate that to your student. It's really crucial. We've already talked about that. Actively pray for our student ministry, the staff, and the students. Join our leadership team for the right reasons. Don't get on just to keep an eye on your kid or to keep an eye on me. Well, you can if you want, but don't do it just to keep an eye on your kid. Do it because you want to see kids' lives change. Some of my greatest leaders have been parents. 80% of my leaders have been parents. Just because your kid is involved, don't think that they don't want you there or wouldn't mind if you were there. If you're willing to tackle that, come see me. Let's talk about how you can get involved. Or, if your kid's in senior high school, work in the junior high school ministry. It's great. I think it could benefit you. It's about that time of life when you have an opportunity to maybe, and it would be cool if you could help us out. You could join our leadership team. Make student ministries a priority because that has a potential of powerful impact on your student's spiritual life. Plan ahead so conflicts don't arise. So if you know that we're doing that big event, and this is something that we prep for all year long, and your student's really excited about, just be conscious of that. Now, we're not saying dictate your family calendar around our student ministry calendar, but be conscious about that. If you don't know anything about me, and maybe you don't know this about me, but my entire ministry calendar is planned already until August, the end of August. It's not published because I don't necessarily think that's always beneficial, but it's all. I can give it to you right now if you want. Actually, I don't have it printed, but it's all there. And so really, if you want to know, we put everything out at least 3 months in advance, a 3-month block saying this is our calendar for the next 3 months. Cafe calendar is up right now. Collide's pretty simple. We really meet just every Wednesday. And same thing with Fusion as well. And so I want to help you, but I can't do that if we're not making church a priority. Last one. Can I have 5 extra minutes?
Yeah.
Can I have 5 extra minutes? Thanks. Last one is how can we serve you? And this really is the brunt of the meeting. And let me give you some examples first. Boys small group. There's a couple of parents who came to me and said, hey, my son's struggling with pornography. And I was like, okay, that's pretty deep. I need to deal with that. I don't know how. No, I'm kidding. But, seriously, though, I was like, all right, how can I help this parent? And so we talked about it. We met, and we're going to form a small group based around the idea of equipping our young boys to tackle this behemoth of an issue. And if we don't think it's a behemoth, talk to me afterwards. But this behemoth of an issue, and so this parent came to me and I said, all right, let's do it. Caveat. I said, let's do it, but I looked at her in the face and I said, can you help me and enable me to do it so that we can do it together? And she said, yes. And so, boys small group, 8 p.m. counseling. A parent says, hey, Phil, I need you here at night, 8 o'clock at night, and I need to talk to my kid. Sure. Now, I might not always be able to do that, but my goal is that, if you need something and I can help you and I'm able, let's do it. Parenting skills seminar. I know parents like, Snapchat. I actually had a list of 12 apps that every parent or teen should know about. Apps that enable your students to hide pictures. Apps that enable your students to send messages without you knowing about it. Apps that enable them to do, lots of things you don't want them to do. And so, do you know about this stuff? Well, maybe I could teach you. Maybe I could show you. Maybe I could educate you. And truth be told, I don't know it all either, but I'm willing to research it and find out so I can help you do a better job at what you do. I would like to. So, how can I best serve you? This is the question for you. I'm going to get my phone out so I can take notes. But how can I best serve you and your family? Because my goal is to do that. My goal is not to play games all week long. It would be fun. My goal is not to see how many 150 students I can get in here and have them drink soda through a sock. I've done that before. Not to have a food fight. I've done that before. But my goal is to serve you. And so how can I best serve you? In the next 5-6 minutes, because they're still in small groups, in the next 5 or 6 minutes, how can I better serve our families, serve you? What can I do for you? How can I serve you? How can I help you and your family better love, obey, proclaim Jesus Christ? What do you got?
I just wanna let the other parents know about the ATM counseling. Last week I did call Pastor Phil because we had an issue with my youngest son, and Phil came over and it was very good. And a nice relationship was created and trust was created between my son and Phil. So I don't know if that's why that's on there, but I just wanna say that.
What's
he
on there for
actually
you to
does
say?
that.
It's supposed to be a generic example.
No, but I'm very grateful that you did that, because I called and I needed help, and you came, so.
And I
want
ate an
to
entire
know.
pint of ice cream outside your son's door while you wouldn't open the door. Seriously. I had to go work out extra that week. Anyway, how can I better serve your family? How can I meet your family's needs? Now, I can't necessarily wax your car, but maybe I could find some students to do that. But how can I serve you? And so maybe it's not a question you answer now, but that's my goal. Jen, what do you?
So this seems maybe silly,
Okay.
but it would be really helpful if when there's children's ministry events and youth events at the same time, that they would actually be coordinated with their start times. I actually need to be upstairs picking up kids right now, but we're dropping kids off at 6 o'clock, 6:30, picking up at 8 o'clock, 8:30.
I agree with you completely. As my son walks in here, come here, buddy boy. Come here, kid. I love you. I know. Can you say hi, buddy?
Hi.
Tell me your name. Wesley. I love you. Have a good night, kid. I'll see you later. No, I agree completely, and that's something that we're in communication about. That's actually why we swapped our Collide schedule, because originally our small groups would go until 8:30, and so for parents who wanted to pick up after Awanas, they were waiting for a half an hour. Now, if you pick your kid up at 8, they're not missing any small group. They're only missing the goof-off time. And out of everything, and I did say this earlier with my schedule, out of everything I want your kids to miss, I don't want you to have to make them go to a cafe night. I don't want you to have to make them go to, a fun event. I want you to say, hey, you know what? You should probably be involved in that small group because it might change your life one day, and you really should try to understand what it means to follow Jesus. And so, out of all the things we should focus on, definitely, and that's why we did that schedule change. We actually did that schedule change. Start time at other events, yes. I try to work with Nick. Something we're continuing to do.
So, looking ahead, Phil, like Lynn mentioned, she's a 5th grade child, and so do I. Right now, 5th graders are in the middle of WANA, because you're still in your first year serving there. In the future, because I have a younger daughter, is that the plan that now WANA wraps up at the end of 4th grade, with the goal then to start with you in 5th?
Correct, and so I already talked to Nick about that. Awana's 5th grade year really has dipped down anyway, as far as attendance. I don't think that class is really big even for Awana's, and if you do have to leave, I understand. And so I don't think that the attendance is really that big on that 5th grade class, because Awana's is still children's ministry. And 5th graders giving an opportunity to step into a big kids ministry speaks volumes. And they get excited for it. And so it's a little intimidating, but yes, we would do that. They would still technically be part of children's ministry, and they would be part of the youth ministry. They would be part of the youth ministry in regards to whatever that 5th through 7th grade ministry was called and what they were doing. But Sunday morning, they'd still be in their Sunday school. Originally, Pastor Jim and I talked about changing that, but honestly, there's 20 5th graders, and that's cool, but we can't fit more than 24 in a classroom, and so combining them with anybody really doesn't help any at all. So they'll still have everything where they're part of the ministry, youth ministry, and the children's ministry. It is an awkward time, but I think we can traverse that. How can I serve you? Kristen?
I just want to piggyback on that boys' small group. I would like to see more men step up and help these young boys. This small group is a pretty sensitive subject, but it's something boys struggle with. So I would hope that, some men can step up and help with this group.
Definitely.
Be a positive role model for the boys.
Definitely. Yes, Amy. Amanda.
It would help if I had clear communication about where the boys can be went, especially for the 5th graders who are new. So I saw some 5th graders here tonight for this. I didn't know that was an option.
Right.
I got the time messed up. So especially as we're coming in and we're not on your email list or Twitter or Facebook and all that,
Right.
help bring us in.
Definitely.
Some clear communication.
Definitely. And the primary ways I communicate, the bulletin, the post, When I say it's on Twitter, it's actually on our website. Because our website just has a Twitter feed on it. It's like just a line item on our website. You can look at it. Yes, Facebook. Text is big. I occasionally do flyers, but actually the majority of flyers I've sent home with your child probably haven't made it to you. And so, yes, definitely I will work on that. When our ministries get separated like this, it's so much easier to communicate because we're only looking at one target audience to communicate, not 6 grades worth of people to communicate to. Any other questions, thoughts?
I just want to give you kudos. My daughter has just joined here, and she brought a friend to Friday night,
Good,
and they absolutely loved it.
good.
Loved it. And so that, is really, they came back talking about it, talked about it the next day, when can we do it again? And then they're worried that she's worried it's going to be somewhere else, Mom. Like, so is it just on the website? Does it
The
tell you when
whole
you go?
schedule, yes, location and time is on the website.
All on the website.
It's all on the website, BethanyUMChurch.com/youth. Also, updates are texted out as well and put on Twitter and on Facebook. So yes, those immediate updates are there as well. Yes, ma'am.
Just as a single mother, my sons really need